Disney is facing the biggest revolt in its entire history.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic.
So I shouldn't say that Wolverine would say, go f*** yourself.
From backdoor refusals to public jabs, X-Men stars are fed up with Disney, and all eyes are on the man in charge, CEO Bob Iger. Insiders say what's coming next could be the downfall of Disney's golden legacy. X-Men stars are revolting. There is a quiet rebellion that's been brewing for years, and now it's boiling over. A-list X-Men actors, Hugh Jackman, Anna Paquin, even the ever-charismatic James McAvoy, are done playing nice, done with the PR gloss, and above all, done with being puppets for a corporate machine that sees mutant stories not as art, but as IP assets, all to monetize under one controlling man's thumb. You guessed right, Disney's CEO. And the real kicker? You've already seen the signs, but missed them.
Very frustrating experience.
These signs were hidden in interviews, slipped into jokes, and teased in awkward silences and out-of-character banter. But now that we've connected the dots and things are getting pretty dark, the most shocking part is not what is now being revealed, but what the studio knew all along and tried to bury. This is the expose Disney hoped no one would dig up. The X-Men franchise is one of the most beloved in cinematic history. It revived the superhero genre when it was on life support. It built a fandom around social commentary, around being different, around justice in the face of discrimination. And yet, the very actors who helped resurrect that message are now quietly turning against the system meant to protect it. Not because they're anti-Marvel, not even because they're anti-Disney, but because, in their words, it's no longer about story, it's about control. Let's start at the top. Bob Iger, Disney CEO, a man whose strategic brilliance in mergers is as undeniable as his ability to sanitize complex narratives. Under his reign, the X-Men weren't just acquired, they were absorbed. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Iger made it clear that there shouldn't be two Marvels, adding that it only makes sense for Marvel to be supervised by one entity. The translation for this is pretty straightforward. Your favorite mutant misfits, the ones with decades of lore, pain, and raw allegory, are now just another cog in the Disney Marvel machine. And that machine is under one man's vision, Kevin Feige. That was the moment many insiders say things shifted. Because unlike the Avengers, who thrived under Feige's optimistic tone, the X-Men were always the outsiders created to echo racism, queer rights, and systemic oppression. And now, they were being given the Disney treatment, glossed over, simplified, and polished. This didn't sit well with the original cast, especially the veterans who had built their identities around these roles.
You feel a lot of pressure to really make it work for the fans and make it something that they can really connect to and can be really happy with.
But how can you connect when your characters are no longer allowed to be messy or real? According to several production sources, there were growing creative constraints during post-merger talks. Hugh Jackman, who had originally bowed out after Logan, returned for Deadpool and Wolverine in 2024, but insiders say the film wasn't the welcome back it appeared to be. Behind the scenes, tensions flared. Jackman's scenes reportedly faced heavy edits. A joke involving Wolverine was nearly axed and only remained because Ryan Reynolds and the team fought to keep it in. A member of the team described the process as a constant gamble.
And every time we sent a script, we were like kind of waiting, and the pushback never came. And it became clear that on this movie, funny win.
Still, insiders say that wasn't the whole story. Several emotionally heavier Wolverine monologues were allegedly trimmed for being too grim, and an entire scene referencing Xavier's psychological toll was cut during reshoots. Over the years, Disney has developed a clear pattern of removing or heavily editing scenes featuring key characters and notable actors. These decisions, whether made for narrative cohesion, brand sensitivity, or social messaging, have sparked debates about artistic integrity, representation, and how much creative control studios should exercise over their productions. While scene trimming is a natural part of filmmaking, the consistency with which Disney cuts content, often after it's been filmed or promoted, raises serious questions. Within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, several high-profile character scenes have been left on the cutting room floor. One such case involved Nathan Fillion, who was cast as Simon Williams aka Wonder Man in Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2. His character's presence was meant to be a fun Easter egg, but it was removed from the final cut to maintain a tighter story arc. Similarly, Tom Hiddleston filmed a dream sequence cameo as Loki for Avengers: Age of Ultron. This scene was ultimately cut after test audiences found it confusing and disruptive to the storyline's pacing. Marvel's habit of filming cameos and then scrapping them is not new. Concept art from various Disney Plus series and Phase 4 films showed appearances by characters like Rocket Raccoon and Proxima Midnight, which were never realized on screen. While Marvel has justified these removals by citing narrative cohesion or budget limitations, fans have expressed frustration at missed opportunities for fan-favorite reunions or deep-cut character moments.
One joke, one line that they asked me to take out.
When I was on set, I was like,
there's no way that's going to be it.
In the case of Deadpool and Wolverine, which represents a unique blend of Disney's family-friendly brand and Fox's R-rated legacy, Disney reportedly stepped in to adjust the film's tone. A particularly vulgar joke involving Mickey Mouse was removed at the studio's request and replaced with a milder but still edgy Pinocchio reference. Additional scenes, such as a cameo from a white variant of Nick Fury and a TVA soldier played by Rob McElhenney, were also cut. These edits were reportedly made due to pacing concerns, budget constraints, and narrative clarity, although fans speculated they were efforts to avoid controversy or overstuffing the film. Pixar, too, has seen its share of controversy over content removal. In the case of Elio, 2025, internal reports and industry insiders revealed that significant queer-themed elements and Latinx cultural representation were removed before the film's final release. Pixar staff members expressed disappointment, arguing that the revisions diluted the film's original vision and compromised its authenticity. These creative decisions were seen as part of a broader effort to sanitize narratives for broader audience appeal, which, ironically, led to the film's underperformance at the box office. A similar situation unfolded with Win or Lose, a Disney Plus animated series developed by Pixar. The show originally included a trans girl character named Kai, voiced by a trans actor. That storyline was ultimately cut, allegedly due to internal concerns over how certain demographics might receive the character. In response, critics and advocacy groups accused Disney of actively hiding or deleting online comments in support of the trans-inclusive narrative, sparking further backlash. Disney's handling of live-action remakes has also come under scrutiny. In the upcoming Lilo and Stitch remake, the beloved character Captain Gantu was entirely removed from the script. The director explained this decision as a way to streamline the narrative, but longtime fans viewed it as a significant loss to the original story's dynamics.
One missing character who I wanted to see, because I wanted to see that freaking real-life Gantu.
In Snow White, Disney replaced the iconic seven dwarfs with CGI-generated magical beings, prompting accusations of abandoning tradition and pandering to modern sensibilities in a way that felt disingenuous to audiences. Looking at the studio's longer history, this tendency to cut or alter major scenes is not new. In 1971's Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Disney removed over 20 minutes of material, including multiple songs and entire character arcs, to fit runtime expectations. Similarly, The Emperor's New Groove was originally envisioned as a musical drama called Kingdom of the Sun. The entire story was overhauled after poor test screenings, resulting in the removal of several characters and musical numbers. The change dramatically shifted the film's tone and structure, turning it into a fast-paced buddy comedy. Into the Woods also underwent notable trimming. Several songs and subplots were removed to meet runtime constraints, despite initial approval from their original creators. One of the most dramatic creative edits occurred during the production of The Lion King, 1994. A darker storyline in which Scar forces Nala into an unwanted alliance was written and storyboarded, but removed due to concerns it would be too disturbing for young viewers. While the removal likely protected the film's PG rating, critics have since pointed to the decision as a missed opportunity for deeper storytelling. What makes this even more outrageous is the fact that some actors have started speaking about their dissatisfaction, but under the guise of humor. Let's go back to the press junket for X-Men: Days of Future Past. Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy, both visibly uncomfortable, started joking about their characters being mentally unstable and emotionally abandoned.
I'm a prisoner in my own mind. I'm a prisoner in my own heart.
It was played for laughs. The room chuckled. But if you read between the lines, that wasn't a joke. In fact, what was happening behind the scenes was worse. Consider how Bryan Singer's vision was abruptly buried, and how Anna Paquin got blindsided during reshoots. These are subtle hints that there may be something bigger brewing. Perhaps a rebellion. The escalated rebellion. Behind the studio smiles and Comic-Con soundbites, a rebellion has started and even escalated. What started as subtle sarcasm and passive resistance from the X-Men cast is now being laid bare in the most un-Disney way imaginable. Through leaks, through near exits, and through scenes that were intentionally deleted, everything is starting to lay bare. And it's all because Disney went too far. Let's talk about the one that crossed the line and exposed Disney's biggest fear. Multiple sources say that during post-production, Disney pushed for more fourth-wall breaks, more MCU nods, and fewer references to the darker events of Wolverine's past. The result was a tug-of-war, with Jackman in the middle.
You will be a meme, and then Bob Iger will show up at your house. You'll be neutralized by one of the people with the blow darts.
That's true.
It was alleged that several emotionally heavier scenes were downgraded to montage. The internal message was clear. This isn't about character. It's about IP synergy, which brings us to Kevin Feige. Now let's be honest. Feige is a master world builder. He's the reason Marvel has a connected universe at all. But not everyone is thrilled about about him taking full control of the X-Men, especially not actors like James McAvoy or Michael Fassbender, who built the franchise on moral ambiguity and complexity, not team-ups and one-liners. Feige's vision, as Bob Iger described in the infamous interview, was to unify the Marvel brand. But here's the problem. The X-Men were never meant to be like the Avengers. They're about fear, prejudice, humanity's worst impulses. And while the Avengers are about saving the world, the X-Men are about surviving it. And now, trying to fit those two tones into one cinematic box has seriously backfired. This friction is already bleeding into upcoming projects. Sources claim that 3 cast members from Deadpool and Wolverine, rumored to be Emma Corrin, Aaron Stanford, and one undisclosed name, refused to sign on for future MCU films without significant creative control. Although Disney's source denies this, the evidence is mounting. Think about it. Many of these actors pay a huge price.
You take risks, you do a lot, and I see it not just in your acting choices, but I saw it in a lot of like shaving your head. You were really game. You actually shaved your head yourself.
No. I did. Emma Corrin, widely praised for her portrayal of Princess Diana in The Crown, made a major career pivot when she was cast as Cassandra Nova, an antagonist, in Deadpool and Wolverine. Despite a critically acclaimed dramatic work, Corrin has revealed that she and the other cast had little exposure to the Marvel Cinematic Universe before being cast. They'd only seen a couple of Marvel films like Spider-Man and Black Panther, and needed what they described as a full debrief to understand the MCU's narrative depth and Easter egg-rich complexity. Another star that deserves attention is Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman's path to becoming Wolverine was far from straightforward. The actor had candidly discussed his deep investment in Logan, stating that he chose that moment to retire from the character because it was hurting and tough to keep portraying Wolverine's emotional depth. He expressed that after nearly 2 decades, the seriousness and personal weight of the role had taken its toll, prompting his departure. When the Disney-Fox deal closed, Jackman affirmed that he had given Wolverine the perfect ending in Logan and was ready to leave the game, believing it was the best decision for himself and the character. Although he later returned for Deadpool and Wolverine, his reluctance to do so speaks volumes. Jackman shared that he would have been open to continuing as Wolverine if Disney had acquired Fox earlier. Many of Disney stars' interviews, while sounding like playful aggression, now appear to be a symbolic rebellion. The actors, trapped in trailers and contracts, were silently fighting back in the only ways they could, with pranks, inside jokes, and passive resistance. A good example is Scarlett Johansson.
I think it's really, everything is changing now. It's sort of new territory, new frontier.
The most high-profile dispute in recent times involves Scarlett Johansson, whose legal battle with Disney over the hybrid release of Black Widow brought deep attention to talent compensation in a streaming era. She claimed the simultaneous theatrical and Disney Plus release violated her contract and deprived her of box office bonuses. This challenged Disney's strategy of dual distribution. Disney responded aggressively, saying her claims were without merit and accusing her of a callous disregard for the pandemic context. After intense backlash, including one from SAG-AFTRA leadership, Disney quietly settled. The agreement reportedly awarded Johansson over $40 million and included future collaboration, such as the Tower of Terror project. Disney's response to Johansson also included CEO Bob Chapek's assertion that the company remains committed to fair talent compensation, even though public tension between Chapek and former CEO Bob Iger has revealed fractures within the corporate leadership, particularly over the decision-making process around hybrid release models. Johansson's legal victory has likely sparked anxiety among other Disney-associated stars whose contracts didn't anticipate hybrid release models. Possible concerns are that unless studios proactively renegotiate, many stars could lose out financially due to shifting distribution strategies. Take Jeremy Renner, for instance. Jeremy, known for portraying Hawkeye across the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was offered a return to headline a second season of Hawkeye. However, he publicly declined because Disney proposed a significant pay cut, offering him only half of his original seasons. Despite the demanding schedule and his recovery from a serious snowplow accident. Jeremy described the offer as insulting and emphasized that he wasn't asking for more money, just equal pay. Another veteran actor, John Malkovich, recently revealed that he had previously turned down multiple major Marvel roles due to insufficient compensation.
They asked me to do a season 2, and they offered me half the money. I'm like, wow.
In a candid GQ interview, Malkovich explained that the physical and time commitment required for lengthy Marvel shoots demanded better pay, and Marvel simply didn't meet his expectations. He eventually accepted a part in the Fantastic Four reboot, but emphasized the decision was more about working with a trusted director than a change of heart about the studio. And then there's Terrence Howard, known for his role in Iron Man and the hit series Empire. The actor has become sharply critical of Disney/20th Century Fox in recent years, following a 2021 lawsuit over unpaid royalties for Empire, now under Disney's umbrella. Howard claimed he had been blacklisted from A-list Hollywood projects. In a podcast interview, he stated that Disney and Fox used their influence to exclude him from mainstream productions, effectively sidelining his career. Although he hasn't characterized it as refusing assignments, Howard's allegations suggest that legal pushback against Disney has resulted in a deliberate quieting of talent by the studio. Now, if you thought creative control, deleted scenes, and passive resistance were the peak of the Disney Stars and X-Men revolt, think again. Because there are more quiet protests that have turned into full-blown heartbreak. And many of these are causing Disney to lose its well-crafted image. Disney is losing its spark. When Disney acquired 21st Century Fox in 2019, it inherited not only the lucrative X-Men intellectual property, but also a web of legacy characters, contracts, and creative baggage from 2 decades of storytelling. While the merger opened the door for the X-Men to finally join the MCU, it also sparked a wave of tension and uncertainty, especially among cast members and creators associated with Fox's mutant universe. Take a look at this. With the 2019 completion of Disney's Fox acquisition, James McAvoy, who portrayed a younger Professor Charles Xavier, publicly questioned how the mutant-centric world could realistically integrate into the MCU. In an interview, he emphasized the drastically different societal implications between the 2 universes, saying, he doesn't know if X-Men could go into Marvel. According to him, in the X-Men world, there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of superheroes, and the social implication of that is different. He expanded on this in another source, noting mutants are often ghettoized compared to the revered Avengers, a clear creative tension about merging 2 worlds with fundamentally different themes. McAvoy's concern wasn't just about fan service or timelines. It was about a genuine philosophical divide between the worlds.
There's like 40 of us. And
sheer
like
numbers.
5 of them.
Another aspect that is worth paying attention to is Disney's skepticism around Fox-era X-Men projects. Following the acquisition, Disney made it clear that it had little interest in supporting or promoting many of the mutant-themed projects developed under Fox. The clearest example of this was The New Mutants, a horror-tinged X-Men spin-off that had already suffered multiple delays even before the merger. Once under Disney's control, the film was reportedly considered for a direct-to-streaming release on Hulu, signaling the studio's lack of confidence in the project's commercial viability. Marketing for the film was minimal, and internal sources suggested that Disney executives were unimpressed with the film's tone and final product. The same dismissive attitude extended to Dark Phoenix, which was quietly released with almost no fanfare and failed to make an impact at the box office. After Disney acquired 20th Century, it reportedly gave Dark Phoenix little attention. Sources say the original marketing team, who understood the film best, was laid off, and Disney didn't invest heavily in promoting the release. The film's only premiere, held in Los Angeles, was intentionally low-key to cut costs, a move that frustrated the creative team. Sources also claimed that other filmmakers hoping for reshoots were required to present detailed storyboards to justify any added expenses. These decisions didn't just reflect changing business priorities, but also conveyed a pattern, and that is that Disney effectively distanced itself from existing Fox projects, signaling corporate unease with legacy X-Men content. When Disney acquired Fox in 2019, fans expected legacy X-Men actors would eventually appear in the MCU, but years later, some of the most recognizable faces in the franchise, including Anna Paquin, James Marsden, and others, remain notably absent, and it's raising questions. So let's start with what we know. Anna Paquin, who portrayed Rogue across several X-Men films, had originally filmed scenes for X-Men: Days of Future Past, but in a surprising move, director Bryan Singer cut her part from the theatrical release. It wasn't personal, just narrative streamlining. As Variety reported in 2014, only a brief shot of her remained in the final version. Paquin's removal sparked early concerns about the erasure of emotionally complex characters. Even the actress herself described the pressure in that interview where she said,
"You feel a lot of pressure to really make it work for the fans and make it something that they can really connect to and can be really happy with."
Her absence from later installments, including the animated X-Men 97 reboot, has not been explained officially, nor has there been any public comment from Disney or Marvel Studios about whether Rogue's deeper arcs were ever considered for development. Meanwhile, other X-Men actors have publicly commented on their reduced involvement in the new era. James McAvoy made headlines when asked about reprising his role in the MCU. He simply responded, saying he's had his moment with it and doesn't need to go back. While there is no indication of tension between McAvoy and Marvel, the lack of continuation for his version of Xavier, despite fan enthusiasm, shows Marvel's intent to start fresh, potentially sidelining nuanced portrayals from the past. Another name swirling in fan discussions is Patrick Stewart, the original Professor X. While Stewart returned briefly in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, he has not been confirmed for further appearances. Stewart himself hinted at being done with the role, calling his return a surprise gift, but suggesting no long-term long-term plans. Patrick Stewart's career spans over 6 decades, beginning on the British stage with the Royal Shakespeare Company, before launching into mainstream stardom as Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Stewart has long discussed how acting offered him a sense of emotional safety, especially when compared to his turbulent childhood. His commitment to serious, character-driven work made him one of the most respected actors in sci-fi and drama. Even before joining any Disney-related project, Stewart was known for being selective, often opting for projects that offered both emotional complexity and creative control.
I initially turned down both Star Trek: The Next Generation and X-Men when they were offered to me for different, though connected, reasons.
His career was built on ensemble collaboration, character immersion, and traditional performance environments, something that would eventually clash with the production norms of the modern Disney machine. When Star Trek Picard was first proposed, Stewart initially resisted. He had deep reservations about returning to a character he had long considered finished. It wasn't until producers pitched a more emotionally grounded and politically relevant direction that he agreed to return. Now, with Kevin Feige overseeing the X-Men, legacy cast members have either bowed out or not been asked back. There's no evidence of active blacklisting, though, but multiple cast members have acknowledged the shift. Hugh Jackman, however, appears to be an exception. He returned as Wolverine for Deadpool and Wolverine in 2024, something fans thought would never happen. Jackman described the moment he agreed to come back in a video interview.
I said, right, I'm in. I want to do this.
While Jackman returned, insiders have revealed that Disney was very careful with the tone of Deadpool and Wolverine. Ryan Reynolds explained in a behind-the-scenes clip that Disney allowed a surprising amount of creative freedom, but still had limits.
The fun story would be that Disney was just appalled at everything and was never going to let us do anything.
So much for creative freedom. It's worth noting that in the animated series X-Men 97, the character of Morph, who was originally male, is portrayed with a more fluid gender presentation. This update has been acknowledged in press coverage and reflects Marvel Animation's cautious step toward inclusivity. And what about emotional scenes being cut? One humorous yet telling moment came during a promotional interview for X-Men: Days of Future Past, when Michael Fassbender described a prank war on set that felt more like emotional release than fun.
It was an excellent shock. I mean, right in the neck. I remember it literally was like, I felt like De Niro in Taxi Driver.
Though delivered with a laugh, these behind-the-scenes hint at the pressures that these stars are facing. And it's possible that sooner than later, Disney and its CEO may be facing a major revolt. How do you think this will affect the company's legacy? Let me know in the comments section. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and click on the next card on your screen.
I'm like, I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
Jeremy Renner isn't just frustrated. He's calling out Disney, and he's not the only one. Behind the scenes, Marvel stars have been clashing with the studio, and the pressure is finally starting to show. Now, all eyes are on CEO Bob Iger, as the company faces growing backlash from its biggest names. From lawsuits to quiet rebellion, something's not right at the top, and Iger's job is at stake. In this video, I will be pulling back the curtains on what's really going on with Disney's leadership and its biggest stars. The Jeremy Renner controversy that started it all. At the center of this storm about the Disney CEO getting fired is none other than Jeremy Renner, the actor who's wielded Hawkeye's bow and arrow since his brief cameo in 2011's Thor. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the current controversy, let's rewind the clock to understand the full context of Renner's complicated relationship with Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Renner's journey as Clint Barton hasn't always been smooth sailing. Back in 2016, during a Quanda session in London, he publicly revealed something rather shocking. During the filming of 2012's The Avengers, he was actually lobbying for his character to be killed off. Feeling frustrated with Hawkeye's limited role, especially after being hypnotized by Loki early in the film, Renner was genuinely dissatisfied and frustrated with how his character was being utilized. The actor revealed that his frustration manifested in some pretty dramatic on-set behavior. He reportedly would fake heart attacks during filming, telling director Joss Whedon, "If you just want to kick me out of this movie, Daddy's going to be having a heart attack." It seemed like Renner was genuinely contemplating an exit from the franchise before it had truly begun for his character. Fast forward to 2015, and Renner found himself embroiled in another controversy during the press tour for Avengers: Age of Ultron. When asked about fans shipping Black Widow with different Avengers, Renner called Scarlett Johansson's character a slut, and his co-star Chris Evans added that she was a complete whore. The comments, while intended as humor, sparked significant backlash on social media, with fans and critics accusing both actors of sexism. Both Renner and Evans eventually issued apologies, with Renner describing his remarks as tasteless and juvenile. However, when he appeared on Conan to discuss the incident, he seemed less than contrite, saying, "I got in a lot of internet trouble. I guess that's a thing now you can get in." His somewhat flippant response only added fuel to the fire. Despite these bumps in the road, Renner's role in the MCU continued to expand, culminating in his own Disney Plus series, Hawkeye, which premiered in 2021. The show paired him with Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop and was generally well received by fans and critics alike. It seemed like Renner had finally found his footing as Hawkeye, and the character had received the development he deserved. But then, tragedy struck on New Year's Day 2023. In a life-altering incident that made headlines worldwide, Renner was involved in a catastrophic accident involving a 330-pound piston bully snow groomer at his Lake Tahoe, Nevada home. The details of the accident are nothing short of horrifying. Renner was attempting to stop the snowplow from sliding toward his nephew when he failed to engage the parking brake or disengage the steel tracks. As he tried to climb back into the cab, he was pulled under the moving tracks and run over by the massive vehicle. The injuries Renner sustained were devastating. 38 broken bones, including 14 rib fractures, a broken cheekbone, and a shattered eye socket. He also suffered a collapsed lung, a pierced liver, and significant facial and chest injuries. His left eyeball was even dislodged. Renner required multiple surgeries and spent over 2 weeks in intensive care. In his memoir, My Next Breath, he revealed that his heart rate slowed to the point of death during the 30 minutes he lay on the ice, describing it as the moment he died before being revived. Amazingly, Renner's recovery progressed well enough that by April 2023, just a few months after the accident, he was able to attend the premiere of his Disney Plus series, Rennervations. By January 2025, marking the second anniversary of the accident, Renner expressed gratitude to the medical staff, first responders, and his nephew, acknowledging the army of people who helped him survive this horrific ordeal. Given all that Renner had been through, you might think that Disney would be eager to work with him again once he felt ready to return to acting. And indeed, it seems they were, but not on terms that the actor found acceptable. In a bombshell interview with High Performance Podcast in May 2025, Renner revealed something that has set off this current firestorm of controversy. According to the actor, Disney approached him about returning for a second season of Hawkeye, but there was a catch. They were only offering him half of what he made for season 1.
They asked me to do a season 2, and they offered me half the money. I'm like, wow, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money. And so 8 months of my time, essentially, and to do it for half the amount.
Renner was understandably taken aback by this offer, especially considering that he was still recovering from his near-fatal accident. In the interview, he pointedly questioned whether Disney's reduced offer was somehow related to his injuries.
I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
The actor made it clear that he wasn't seeking an increase in pay. He simply expected to be compensated at the same rate as before.
And we didn't see eye to eye on that. And sadly, and I still love the character. I still love to do it. But I had to defend myself. I didn't ask for any more money, mind you, right? It just paid me what I made the first season.
What makes the situation even more interesting is that Renner specifically pointed out that the issue wasn't with Marvel Studios itself, but rather with Disney's financial decision makers.
Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season? And this is not Marvel, mind you. This is like this Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told them to go fly a kite. I mean, just at the insult offer.
The actor's frustration is palpable, and it's not hard to understand why. After surviving an accident that nearly claimed his life and working hard through an extensive rehabilitation process, being offered half his previous salary for what he described as twice the amount of work feels like a slap in the face. Renner noted that the role would require an 8-month commitment, making the reduced pay even more unacceptable. While Renner expressed disappointment about the situation, he also found a silver lining, suggesting that perhaps his body would thank him for not taking on the demanding role so soon after his recovery.
So it was a little disheartening that didn't happen, but that's fine. I'm happy to let that go because my body's probably thanking me, time and time again that I'm not doing it right now. But we'll see.
Renner's revelation has sparked significant backlash against Disney on social media. On X, posts highlighting Disney's lowball offer to Renner after his accident have gained significant traction, with many fans expressing support for the actor and criticism of Disney's approach to talent compensation. The general sentiment online seems to be one of disappointment in Disney for what many perceive as disrespectful treatment of an original Avenger who has been with the franchise since nearly the beginning. This controversy is particularly noteworthy because it's not the first time Disney has faced backlash over its compensation practices for MCU stars. Now, with Renner's revelation about his Hawkeye Season 2 offer, it seems these tensions are far from resolved. The question becomes, is this latest controversy with Jeremy Renner just an isolated incident, or part of a broader pattern of discontent among Marvel stars that could spell trouble for Disney CEO Bob Iger? To answer that, we need to examine how other Avengers actors have been expressing their feelings about Disney's management in recent years, and whether there's a growing momentum of dissatisfaction that could potentially lead to major changes at the top of the Disney hierarchy. As of May 2025, there has been no official confirmation from Disney or Marvel Studios regarding a second season. However, some reports and industry insiders have speculated that filming might begin in fall 2025, with a potential release in late 2026 or early 2027. But these claims lack official corroboration. Renner's public statements indicate that he is not currently involved in the project, and his rejection of the initial offer suggests that any future season would require renegotiation. Some reports have speculated that Haley Steinfeld could return as Kate Bishop, potentially leading the series without Renner, but without an official statement from Disney, the project's status remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that Renner's story has struck a chord with fans and industry insiders alike, raising questions about how Disney values its talent, particularly those who have been integral to building the MCU into the global phenomenon it is today. Bob Iger's fall from grace, how Disney's CEO lost the public's trust. When Bob Iger returned as Disney's CEO in November 2022, following the abrupt dismissal of his successor Bob Chapek, the public response was overwhelmingly positive. Chapek's tenure had been marred by PR backlashes, a political battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Don't Say Gay bill, and unpopular operational changes like Disney Genie Plus and the park reservation systems. Social media platforms erupted with relief and celebration at the news of Iger's return, with thousands of posts and memes expressing joy at the leadership change. One X-user referenced Chapek's infamous remark about adults not wanting animated movies, while another shared videos of Disney adults reacting positively to the news. Some even compared Iger to Thanos in a positive way, referencing the impact of his Marvel acquisition. The initial sentiment was clear. Iger's return was viewed as a return to stability and excellence after what many perceived as a chaotic period under Chapek. After all, Iger's previous 15-year tenure as CEO had been marked by significant acquisitions, including Lucasfilm, Pixar, and Marvel Studios, moves that transformed Disney into an entertainment powerhouse. Many fans saw this era as a golden age for the company and had high hopes that Iger's return would signal a similar period of prosperity and innovation. However, this honeymoon period didn't last long. By mid-2023, fan sentiment toward Iger had begun to sour dramatically. One of the major turning points came during the Writers Guild of America, WGA, and Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, strikes, which paralyzed much of Hollywood in 2023. Iger's comments about the strikes were widely perceived as tone-deaf and elitist. He described the writers' and actors' demands as not realistic and labeled the strikes as disruptive, remarks that sparked significant backlash, especially given his own substantial compensation. According to Wikipedia, Iger's annual salary was approximately $27 million, a stark contrast to the average writer's salary of around $65,000 per year. On social media, fans expressed their anger, with many showing sympathy for the striking writers and actors while criticizing Iger's enormous pay disparity. On Reddit, particularly in the R Out of the Loop thread titled, "What's the deal with people suddenly hating Bob Iger recently?" users shared their frustration with Iger's stance. One X-user posted a particularly damning comparison, highlighting the difference between Disney's actions against strikers and Universal's approach, further fueling the growing discontent with Iger's leadership. But the strikes were just one factor in Iger's declining popularity. His financial decisions have also drawn significant criticism. Fans on forums like Disboards noted Iger's role in leaving Disney with substantial debt, primarily from investments in the Disney Plus streaming platform. There was also considerable backlash when news broke that Disney, under Iger's leadership, was looking to sell off assets like ABC, FX, and freeform. Adding to the image problem was the revelation that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Iger had forfeited his $3 million chairman's salary, but kept his $46 million CEO compensation, a move many saw as disingenuous at best. These decisions contributed to a growing perception that Iger prioritized profits over people, with comments on Reddit going so far as to label him a scumbag CEO. The issues didn't stop there. Despite Iger's return, many fans felt that Disney's theme parks and content quality hadn't improved as hoped. A Los Angeles Times article noted ongoing fan fury over theme park price hikes and other challenges that continued under Iger's second tenure. The failure of high-profile projects like the Star Wars Hotel, mentioned in an Inside the Magic article, only added to the growing frustration. By late 2023, online forums reflected a mix of disappointment and calls for change. A Disboards post linked to a Business Insider article highlighting low staff morale, layoffs of 7,000 people, and cost cuts of $5.5 billion, all of which likely influenced fan sentiment. Comments on the forum included hopes for a turnaround, but also uncertainty, with one fan stating, "Disney needs to decide if it wants to be a social activist or a profitable company," reflecting the polarization in views about the company's direction. But perhaps most troubling for Iger has been Disney's handling of its live-action Snow White remake, which was released on March 21, 2025. The film, which cost over $270 million to produce, has been a focal point of controversy on multiple fronts, from casting decisions to story changes and the political views of its stars. The casting controversy began in June 2021, when Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, was cast as Snow White. This decision led to racist backlash from some critics who argued she didn't fit the traditional image of the character, described as having skin as white as snow. Zegler defended her casting, emphasizing the importance of representation, but the debate continued to simmer. In 2023, she even pleaded on X to avoid being tagged in discourse about the role. Then there was the issue of how the film would portray the Seven Dwarfs. In January 2022, Peter Dinklage criticized the remake for its portrayal of dwarfs, calling it backwards, despite the progressive casting of Zegler. Disney responded by saying they would consult with the dwarfism community to avoid stereotypes, but this led to further complications. Dylan Postal criticized Dinklage for potentially taking jobs away from actors with dwarfism. And in February 2025, Disney revealed that only Martin Kleba, an actor with dwarfism, would be among the 7 CGI dwarfs. This decision was criticized by Ali Chapman for excluding other little people. The controversies continued with Zegler's comments about the original 1937 film. In September 2022, she called the original Snow White outdated and criticized the love story as weird, leading to backlash from fans and David Hale Hand, son of the original director, who called the remake a disgrace. This led to the Daily Wire announcing a competing Snow White adaptation focusing on timeless values. Further complicating matters were on-set photos from July 2023, showing magical creatures instead of dwarfs, causing confusion. Disney clarified they were fake or stand-ins, but Postal expressed disappointment, highlighting missed opportunities for actors with dwarfism. The political views of the film's stars also became a flashpoint. Gal Gadot's pro-Israel stance following the October 7, 2023, Hamas attacks led to boycott calls, while Zegler reaffirmed her pro-Palestine stance, creating tension between the co-stars. Media outlets like Newsweek highlighted these tensions, adding another layer of controversy to the project. In November 2024, Zegler criticized Trump's re-election, calling for no peace for his supporters, which led to calls for a boycott from MAGA supporters. She later apologized on Instagram after Megyn Kelly demanded Disney fire her. The fallout from these controversies was significant. Disney scaled back the film's premiere, limiting it to photographers and house interviewers. While Kleba claimed this was due to the Ziegler controversy, sources downplayed tensions. Nonetheless, the film opened to mixed reviews and underwhelming box office projections of $45 million to $55 million, lagging behind other Disney remakes. There's also been a major legal controversy that has tarnished Disney's image under Iger's leadership. In October 2023, a patron at Walt Disney World Resort died from a severe allergic reaction after eating at a restaurant on the property, leading to a wrongful death lawsuit filed in February 2024 by her husband, alleging negligence. The incident involved Dr. Kanokporn Tangswan, who had severe dairy and nut allergies, and allegedly chose the restaurant due to assurances it could accommodate her needs. Disney initially sought to dismiss the case by invoking arbitration clauses from the husband's 2019 Disney Plus free trial agreement, arguing it extended to all disputes with Disney affiliates. This move was widely criticized as surreal. Following the backlash, Disney reversed course in August 2024, with Josh D'Amaro stating, "At Disney, we strive to put humanity above all other considerations," and agreed to waive arbitration. The case is now set for court, with a hearing initially scheduled for October 2nd, 2024, but canceled after Disney's reversal. As of May 2025, the lawsuit remains ongoing, raising questions about arbitration clause, enforceability. Adding to Disney's woes under Iger's leadership have been operational controversies, particularly around price increases and changes to guest services. Disney World has implemented significant price hikes for 2025 tickets, increasing by $5 to $10 for most dates from January through October, with peak season prices for November and December hitting new record highs. Several dining options have also seen increases, with character meals like Crystal Palace rising to $52 per adult for breakfast, up from $48, and $62 for lunch, dinner, up from $61. In 2024, Disney overhauled the Disability Access Service, DAS program, intended for guests with developmental disabilities, drawing backlash for being less accommodating. To offset some of these costs, Disney introduced discounts like free water park tickets for on-site hotel guests in 2025, but this hasn't fully addressed the concerns about affordability. Reports indicate that there have been internal discussions at Disney about the high prices, with some executives worrying that the company has reached affordability limits for middle-class Americans. Upon his return as CEO, Iger reportedly asked for strategies to win back fans, including freezing ticket increases, but the continued price hikes suggest these concerns haven't translated into meaningful policy changes. One of the most significant political controversies during Iger's second tenure has been Disney's feud with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Parental Rights in Education Bill, commonly known as the Don't Say Gay Bill. This legislation, signed into law in March 2022 before Iger's return, prohibited classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in kindergarten through third grade in Florida public schools. While the initial controversy began under former CEO Bob Chapek, it escalated into 2023 and 2024. Disney initially faced internal and external backlash for remaining silent on the bill, with employees staging walkouts and protests. After public pressure, Disney publicly opposed the bill, calling for its repeal, which led to a direct confrontation with DeSantis. In April 2022, DeSantis signed a bill to dissolve Disney's special tax district, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which had allowed Disney to self-govern its operations in Florida. This move was widely interpreted as retaliation for Disney's stance, sparking a legal battle that continued into 2024. Disney alleged retaliation for its free speech, while DeSantis countersued, claiming Disney was attempting to undermine state authority. However, on March 28, 2024, Disney and a board appointed by DeSantis settled their lawsuits, resolving the dispute over the district's control. The settlement made a last-minute agreement by Disney null and void, and allowed the board to work with Disney on updating the district's comprehensive plan. Disney committed to investing at least $30 billion over the next decade in its theme parks, including $17 billion in Orlando. While this settlement represented a resolution to the immediate legal battle, the reputational damage to Disney and the perception that the company had been outmaneuvered by DeSantis continued to linger, further contributing to the declining faith in Iger's leadership. All of these controversies have contributed to a growing sense that Iger's second tenure as Disney CEO has not lived up to the high expectations set when he returned in 2022. What was initially seen as a triumphant return to form for the company has instead become a period marked by controversy, financial struggles, and declining public trust. But has this discontent reached a level where Iger's position could actually be in jeopardy? Marvel's Civil War. Are other Avengers stars joining the rebellion against Disney? The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been the crown jewel of Disney's entertainment empire since the company acquired Marvel in 2009. The interconnected superhero franchise has generated billions at the box office and helped launch Disney Plus to streaming prominence. But behind the scenes, a different kind of Avengers story has been unfolding, one where the stars who helped build this juggernaut have increasingly found themselves at odds with the studio's decision-makers. While Jeremy Renner's recent salary dispute over Hawkeye Season 2 has grabbed headlines, he's far from the only Marvel actor to have voiced concerns about Disney's approach to talent management and creative decisions. In fact, looking at the past decade, we can see a pattern of tensions between the Avengers stars and the studio that has only intensified in recent years. One of the most significant disputes involves Scarlett Johansson, who played Natasha Romanoff Black Widow in the MCU for over a decade. In July 2021, Johansson filed a lawsuit against Disney in Los Angeles Superior Court, alleging breach of contract over the release strategy for Black Widow. The film was Released simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access, a decision Johansson claimed reduced her earnings, as her contract tied a significant portion of her compensation to box office performance. Johansson's legal team argued that Disney's dual release strategy, motivated by the COVID-19 pandemic, siphoned potential theatergoers, costing her tens of millions in potential earnings. Disney responded aggressively, revealing her $20 million base salary and claiming she was being insensitive to the pandemic's impact, which only escalated the public nature of the dispute. The lawsuit was eventually settled in October 2021, with terms not disclosed. After the settlement, Johansson stated, "I am happy to have resolved our differences with Disney," and Disney's Alan Bergman expressed a desire for future collaborations, including a planned Tower of Terror project. Another MCU actor who has expressed frustration with the franchise is Chris Hemsworth, who portrays Thor. In 2023 and 2024 interviews, Hemsworth expressed dissatisfaction with his performance in Thor: Love and Thunder 2022, calling it too silly and feeling he became a parody of himself. While this was more of a creative self-critique than a direct controversy with Disney, it reflected growing concerns about the direction of certain MCU characters and narratives. In a later interview with Vanity Fair, Hemsworth expanded on his frustrations with the Marvel formula, suggesting that the studio's approach had become too rigid and predictable. While he didn't directly criticize Disney's management, his comments added to the sense that even the franchise's biggest stars were becoming disenchanted with the creative decisions being made. More recently, in January 2025, Anthony Mackie, who took on the role of Sam Wilson, Captain America, following The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, found himself at the center of a controversy during the promotional tour for Captain America: Brave New World in Rome. Mackie stated, "For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term America should be one of those representations, emphasizing values like honor, dignity, and integrity as universal rather than nationally specific." These comments drew significant backlash, particularly from conservative groups, who interpreted them as unpatriotic. Social media saw calls for a boycott, with some labeling the film woke garbage. Facing the backlash, Mackie clarified his stance on Instagram stories, stating, "Let me be clear about this. I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to." The film's director, Julius Ona, also defended Mackie, telling Variety that the comments were misinterpreted, emphasizing themes of community and empathy in the film, aligning with Mackie's portrayal of Sam Wilson. But perhaps one of the most telling examples of the complicated relationship between Marvel actors and Disney can be found by looking back at Mark Ruffalo, who plays Bruce Banner, Hulk. Unlike many of his fellow Avengers, Ruffalo has never received a solo Hulk film, despite being a fan favorite. This isn't due to lack of interest from the actor or audiences, but rather because of complex licensing issues between Marvel Studios and Universal Pictures. As reported by Hindustan Times, Universal Pictures still holds the distribution rights to any standalone Hulk films, which has prevented Disney from producing a Ruffalo-led Hulk movie. While this situation predates Iger's current tenure, it represents another instance where business decisions have impacted the creative and professional opportunities for Marvel stars, contributing to a sense that the actor's interests aren't always prioritized. Looking at these examples collectively, a pattern emerges. Marvel's stars have repeatedly found themselves at odds with Disney's business practices, creative decisions, and public relations strategies. While not every actor has directly criticized Bob Iger or called for his removal, the accumulation of these incidents creates an environment where talent feels undervalued or constrained. Precisely the sentiment that Jeremy Renner expressed in his recent interview about the Hawkeye salary dispute. But is there any evidence that these various controversies could actually lead to Iger's removal as CEO? When Iger returned as CEO in November 2022, it was initially described as a temporary arrangement, with the intention of finding a permanent successor within 2 years. However, in July 2023, Disney announced that Iger had agreed to extend his contract through December 31st, 2026, giving him more time to navigate the company through various challenges and groom a successor. In January 2025, Disney appointed James Gorman, the former CEO of Morgan Stanley, as chairman of the board, with plans to announce Iger's replacement as CEO in early 2026. This timeline suggests that Disney is committed to an orderly transition of power, rather than an abrupt dismissal of Iger. Furthermore, While Iger has certainly faced criticism, there's no evidence of a coordinated effort among Marvel stars or other stakeholders to have him removed. The controversies we've examined, including Renner's salary dispute, seem to be isolated incidents rather than part of a larger campaign against Iger's leadership. It's also worth noting that Iger's compensation for 2024 was reported to be $41 million in January 2025, suggesting that the Disney board still has confidence in his leadership despite the various controversies. This represents a significant increase from his previous compensation package, further indicating that his position is not immediately threatened. That said, the cumulative impact of these controversies could certainly influence Disney's long-term leadership plans, especially if they begin to affect the company's bottom line or cause high-profile talent to seek opportunities elsewhere. The entertainment industry is heavily reliant on relationships and reputation, and a perception that Disney doesn't treat its stars fairly could make it harder for the company to attract and retain top talent in the future. As for the specific issue of Jeremy Renner and Hawkeye Season 2, it's unclear how this will ultimately be resolved. Disney has not publicly responded to Renner's claims about the salary offer, although a Disney insider reportedly disputed his account, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Given the public backlash, it's possible that Disney might reconsider its approach and come back with a more favorable offer, especially if they believe Hawkeye Season 2 has significant commercial potential. But for now, all of this remains speculative. While the controversies we've examined certainly paint a picture of growing discontent with Disney's leadership under Iger, there's no concrete evidence that his position is in imminent danger, or that a coordinated rebellion of Marvel stars is underway. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.